Hi, thank you all for coming. Very happy to introduce Aaron Kunin this evening. Sappho's fragment 38, "You Burn Me," in Anne Carson's translation, compresses much of Western poetics into a minimalist arson of subject, verb, and object. The Inferno? You burn me. Pretty much all of Sylvia Plath? You burn me. But what if Sappho's salvaged papyrus read, "You freeze me," instead? This is the alternative history of feeling, or affective politics, that Aaron Kunin articulates with algorithmic precision in his latest collection, Cold Genius. It might seem cold-blooded, or, heaven forbid, post-human, to adopt such a hypothermic perspective in verse. Only a god can laugh coldly, Kunin almost sadly observes. At its most metaphysical, wit forces a frozen rictus from us ticklish subjects. Sometimes, in great pain, the victim starts to laugh uncontrollably, Kunin reflects on the torturous infrastructure of this involuntary response, as if in contempt of pain. When you cast a cold eye on life, on death, merely eating a banana authorizes genocidal actions against the indigenous peoples of Central America. To have a mind of winter may entail suicidal ideations, even amid climate-controlled luxury accommodations. The best place is a hotel room, bathtub. From the symptomatic writing of the sore throat and other poems to the misanthropic anthropologies of the Mandarin, Kunin's writing degree 0 offers a minority report on our collective and individual forms of belonging. Toward the end of Cold Genius, the poet finds himself quite literally stopped in his tracks by a passing attraction that evokes the grand historical tradition of Neoplatonic love. On the unmoving train, glancing at pages in a magazine, you were on the phone, dealing with a technical problem, patient and sarcastic, when your glance fell on me and woke my intellect. You seemed to address me, your voice rising in 2 syllables that were almost my name, a word that, when at age 5 I first heard it pronounced, I mistook for my name. What is this word? Uttered by a stranger addressing customer service, so like the poet's name that he once, as a child, mistook it for his own. Errand. Maybe all poets are called to their vocation. Errand, by a self-misrecognition born of memory and desire. It makes perfect sense, then, that Kunin should quote his own voice, repeating itself, attending to itself throughout Cold Genius. I wasn't up to it, his speaker confesses on the threshold of this literary echo chamber. What is it? A love affair? The Weltgeist? A technical problem? If you listen to the silent stresses resonating throughout this work, you'll hear the subject, abject, object. I wasn't up to it. Please join me in welcoming Aaron Kunin.
Thanks for the excuse to cry. I was looking for a reason to cry in public, something he can't say, and it agitates him. Can they fire me for that? An acceptable reason. Don't underestimate the importance of these scenes of research and reflection. Also, to fool yourself into believing you are doing work. If I survive a suicide attempt, will I lose my job? I don't know. You should read your contract. History is the soft medium into which you cut. Love is the instrument that cuts. Love is the drill. Love cuts to the depth of the jokes which flow out. Puns flow out gaily from the wound made by love. Yeah, that's what it's like. History cuts everywhere with equal ease, but love cuts deep into living flesh. I see clearly that I did not act well. I see clearly that it was an unfair situation. That's not an excuse. No, that's a personal failure. I wasn't up to it. I was inadequate to what I felt. Even if there's no solution, you should still be able to act well because you are a formalist. Not an impossible situation, just an unfair one. A cut from an ancient knife point. Most of the writing is done on post-it notes. Meanwhile, certain words continue to appear in poems, inadequate to what I felt. Wash yourself twice every day and make yourself happy once. Title: How can a mere thing be sad? Hold your breath and wait. Correctly cold, regularly low breath from the open door, the killer inside me whose imagination rules this door to remain unlocked. I am connected to you by a name that I am unable to pronounce during business hours. One name was Elizabeth Johnson. That would make me happy. Something was almost communicated, like the way you just looked at me over the frame of your glasses was incredibly seductive and unrepeatable, and the most important part of understanding. That's what you're missing. Alas, the important part is Wash me twice every day, and make me happy once. Where did you go? What are you thinking when we do it together? I wonder where you go. What does your wrist tell you? Title: Did you open your mouth to put something in or extract something? It seems I can't remember. Hands violently shaking, he is unable to close his fingers around a wad of chewing gum that he is trying to remove from his mouth. Marxists should never eat human flesh. Wearing glasses, a mask, although it hides nothing. The smell of light on a person, cold on a forehead, hide your thoughts in an apartment or a cheek, brought out by light cooking, and the teeth behind the cheek, the feeling that you have forgotten something. Some writers never use because or so that. He likes it because he can taste it. He is right to like it because he can taste it. He is cooking himself in the food. I only wanted to show you what real eating noise sounds like. Blend your thoughts on a pillow. Now listen to me while I drink. Afternoon snacks and their wrappers being worked open. and the cries of frustration when they resist, repeated, and at a higher volume, milk spreads in the cup of coffee, sinking, then rising when it warms. Knowing, loving what you love, which is basically gravitation, and it helps to think of your movement towards it as a descent. To dispose of what you have used, to put down the cup, to rest it in its saucer with a kind of politeness. One kind is pretending that others do not exist. Another kind is pretending to give others your attention. It doesn't have to be pretend. Of those who know what they love, and it doesn't change. A poured liquid finds the level it loves to be, following the sides of the cup. The cup receives and pours out, and the cup loves to hold and be held. Hand full I am, hand full I give. The promise to love something is provisional. It is a kind of lawlessness. Thus, the demand for love also is unlawful since it is not enforceable. But surely there is no such poem. Is so much cleverness ever truly wasted? The values of order, prudence, and art are not unlawful or vulnerable. I mean, they are not sociable. For the house cat, surely, in whom one may view my neuroses as in a mirror, but her criteria are not fathomable, warped by her characteristic feline traits, curiosity and fear of the outdoors, earthquakes, the ceiling fan, strange people, loud noises, and death. Nothing pains me so much as my fabrications. Nothing could be less essential than the questions that occupy me. For surely, whom I loved, conditionally, it now appears. All the hours you spent reading and puzzling over Adorno could, without warning, be extinguished. Then the worst jobs in service carry a kind of authority which can be the expertise of doing the job, or the nurse's uniform, or the privilege of not wearing a uniform. And I, the least remarkable object in the room, stubborn, not in acting, but in failing to act, exchanged being generous for being right on more than one occasion. And it was worth it. Extra items, not to realize the object, to put power into the form. The powers of service originally were abilities. And I, the lobster on the plate, robbed of the powers of speech, or acquainted with failed eloquence at least, in the New Testament sense, acquainted, not believing exactly in the innate, but fiercely protective of latent and dormant qualities, admit to having a personal stake in awkwardness and a distaste for outcome-based education. Cold genius, that thing you study. All cleverness is a result of classical learning and, along with wealth, is the source of strength. We could go back and forth a few times, insisting we are fine and inquiring, really? And I, an extra item, with my onlooker affect, lack of graciousness, and the unusually cold temper of my critique, because Cian said controversial literature is supposed to be hot, Hot to trot, but this is remarkably cold, a frost piece. Now I go inside things and find their secrets, accidentally extinguished. I don't need more than the space between your fingers. Now go inside. What are you going as? That thing you study? We have accidentally extinguished it. What was it you said you wanted? To put power into the form. What was sent? What was meant? It starts in the ankle. You see it in the ankle. Why are you staring at my ankle? What parts of me would you like to touch? The ankle. London is a map on which streets, rivers, houses, and faces are marks. It can't be helped, even if you are a cat. Ah, it can't be helped. You do it just by looking. Just like when you drop a book and it acquires a dent or a fold, a naked body exposes very little as long as its mechanism remains hidden. There's no removable panel, like on the back of the vacuum cleaner, that would allow you to look at the parts moving and still. They appear on the map as marks. There's no machine that just maintains or improves you without effort. At least you have to learn how to get it to work, like anything that can be done better and worse. Make the second cut across, or to undo, make the same cut in the opposite direction. One light is in your mouth, another is in your hand. One light under your tongue. And each boy saved a piece of his cookie for their friend, so you had enough pieces to make a whole cookie. Each of the others had almost a whole cookie of his own for safekeeping, and a glass of water on the nightstand. He drank some and found that it was really water. And does it deserve to be called sleep? Not until I can see where I'm to insert the needle. The phone rings. Instead of answering it, he takes a drink of water. The end of the dream, the sound of his own breathing. Success is measured in numbers. Title, an unrecognizable name for everything that matters, and or desperate substitutions for a crucial ingredient. Those people for whom emotion always looks like contempt, people used to mean simply men. Today, it means almost everyone. I thought that I was normal. Really, I was protected from what was normal, disguised as a car, not quite driving a car, disguised with our signature. They are mammals. They understand irony. We have that in common. Footage can always be used. The important part is un. Every person and every action and every word can be replaced by a number. More people love you than you know. But even if everybody loved you like everybody in the world, only a few would find a way to make you understand. Cleaning must fail. Good spot to commit suicide. Nothing to distract, interrupt, or change your mind. Little mess, and someone to pick it up tomorrow. The best place is a hotel room, bathtub. Remember the poem by Lisa Jarnot, where she took the paper that Jim Buckhouse wrote for undergrad intro to philosophy class about whether he could be wrong about being in pain and changed it to Paris. I'm doing the opposite of that. This little body I uncover without expectation of pleasure, intimate but not sexual, like handling someone's stomach. Or has that been rezoned? All professors of English should take a vow of celibacy. Do you even enjoy the things you call pleasure? I was tempted to whisper, do you love me or do you merely love your work? Both varieties are restricted. Anyone who has made a list knows how difficult it can be to do work. My job is finding curves, overlaps, and confused by things that used to turn you on, links on the burning necklace. Without activating, it recedes, rough and smooth, interests of the flesh withdrawn from you. I resented the things I loved and couldn't feel. Only the cold recognizes the appearance of love. Gelid, the heart, wrapped in a plastic sheet, acknowledges the power and extent of love. You turn me on, but you don't make me laugh. You don't turn me on, but you do something better. You influence me. My turn is a kind of uniqueness. Only criminals know how to enjoy life. Change it back to pain. Do not restate, do not resuscitate. Visualize myself in a hotel room when the door opens and pain enters. Title, Brothers, marker. What really upsets men? Brothers, no generalization about how men are can be a compliment to me even, or especially if I am excluded from it. Brothers, we are missing a unit that is called a syllable. Brothers, men holding doors for women. They stole my process. The inside of the mouth sounded very wet, no? Proclaim what is missing. How sad is my process? Into the darker, dark, trembling I go, precise instead of merciful. Title, Brothers, marker. Why are you blocking the shortest path? They show that they have understood you by applauding, by shouting with laughter, by sitting back in their chairs, by looking away from you, by not allowing you to finish, trembling it. I'm Chiquita Banana, and I'm here to say the only thing that really belongs to you is your death, and you can't cut a piece of it out and give it to me. Erotic imagination is limited, and I'm trying not to be judgmental, and I'm trying not to protect myself, but I've never been good at that. I have tried hard to cultivate indifference regarding success or failure, like many poets and critics who are in love with failure, like the pigeon checking to see if the empty tray was still empty, or like your colleagues checking the same tray once or twice in life. I have been successful in love in the month of May. Here's one by Walt Whitman. Muscle and pluck forever. What invigorates life invigorates death, and the dead advance as much as the living advance, and the future is no more uncertain than the present, for the roughness of the earth and of man encloses as much as the delicatesse of the earth and of man, and nothing endures but personal qualities. What do you think endures? Do you think a great city endures, or a teeming manufacturing state, or a prepared constitution, or the best-built steamships or hotels of granite and iron, or any chef-d'oeuvre of engineering, forts, armaments away? These are not to be cherished for themselves. They fill their hour. The dancers dance, the musicians play for them. The show passes. All does well enough, of course. All does very well till one flash of defiance. A great city is that which has the greatest men and women. If it be a few ragged huts, it is still the greatest city in the whole world. The place where a great city stands is not the place of stretched wharves, docks, manufactures, deposits of produce merely, nor the place of ceaseless salutes of newcomers, or the anchor lifters of the departing, nor the place of the tallest and costliest buildings or shops selling goods from the rest of the earth, nor the place of the best libraries and schools, nor the place where money is plenteest, nor the place of the most numerous population. Where the city stands, with the brawniest breed of orators and bards, where the city stands that is beloved by these, and loves them in return, and understands them, where no monuments exist to heroes, but in the common words and deeds, where thrift is in its place, and prudence is in its place, where the men and women think lightly of the laws, where the slave ceases, and the master of slaves ceases, where the populace rise at once against the never-ending audacity of elected persons, where fierce men and women pour forth as the sea to the whistle of death pours its sweeping and unripped waves, where outside authority enters always after the precedence of inside authority, where the citizen is always the head and ideal, and president, mayor, governor, and whatnot are agents for pay, where children are taught to be laws to themselves and depend on themselves, where equanimity is illustrated in affairs, where speculations on the soul are encouraged, where women walk in public processions in the streets, the same as the men, where they enter the public assembly and take places, the same as the men, where the city of the faithfulest friends stands, where the city of the cleanliness of the sexes stands, where the city of the healthiest fathers stands, where the city of the best-bodied mothers stands. There the great city stands. How beggarly appear arguments before a defiant deed. How the floridness of the materials of cities shrivels before a man's or woman's look. All waits or goes by default till a strong being appears. A strong being is the proof of the race and of the ability of the universe. When he or she appears, materials are overawed. The dispute on the soul stops. The old customs and phrases are confronted, turned back, or laid away. Where is your money-making now? What can it do now? What is your respectability now? What are your theology, tuition, society, traditions, statute books now? Where are your jibes of being now? Where are your cavils about the soul now? First, Mother made me by removing her luminous beauty from one area of her body, earth, where her foot fell, cooled, and hardened around the dent. Impression left by a fingernail in the skin of an apple. I never grew, but more and more of the beauties she had in me dwindled, teeth seeming to lengthen, showing their roots as the gums recede, just a piece of Mother, with all her treasures kept back. On my tongue, the edge of an unpleasant flavor that I instinctively knew to be death. A proud and overprotective parent of the one thing she had invented. She rather enjoyed seeing her blood go about in a different shape. My sweet Mother. Proud of all that I kept hidden, deeply moved, or merely chewing, I learned early to hear the sound of coughing with unconcern, merely a cut through which you may see a short distance into her face, and that's her mouth, uniformly silver, a cold color in hair, green eyes blanched gray, where I learned to seek happiness in a woman's glance. She burned through the earth when she divided her store of beauties from her substance. The remainder froze, and she froze the remover, as alike as one of the halves of an apple to the other. Could two faces make a third face by friction of one mouth against another? Could one face split into two copies of itself? And I, their mirror, now told apart by temperature, or the notch in the ear, or just by pointing, of luminous beauty, her defining feature absent from your composition, a seemingly casual mention. I looked up from a fiery outline, her face held warring energies in check, sovereign and ecstatic. I would have enjoyed saying that my forehead was hotter than her iron, but truthfully, I guess, it wasn't, since the brand left a visible scar. I love women. Second, give him irony. First, a trope, then a sexual fetish, then a government program, because when you long for an object, instead you join a society. Am I lessened by your knowing what I know, loving what I love? There is no reason to think so. Sleep brushed his face, shrouded his doubtful expression. The bold image of a dream played across his eyes. A glimpse of stalking. You merely seek sensation and organize society. Supported by clouds, not a hand. Then Founders' Day. Am I lessened by your loving a book written by me? Doubtful. He walked into it until his shadow vanished. His shadow he approved, but not his reflection. A bicycle without a lock, then a monthly newsletter. You build community. Did you want something? No tail on this one, just another head, a singing head. Am I lessened by your reading my book. A book can be a thing too many. I must put myself together so carefully that when you take me apart, the parts detach in the correct order. When you fetishize an object, you become a member of a community. As far as I am concerned, they are not mirrors. Am I lessened by your love? No. Only the regret of causing somebody pain, not guaranteed against acid burns. Recall the indelible rule of commerce. You want an object, but you are going to get community. And by my love am I less. You are lying. You are a statement, not a question. Third, one of the most beautiful sights in the modern world is the view of a city from a night flight. The headlights of someone's car floating forward on a quiet street. Small fires of an encamped army. When the coolant flows over hot steel and steam billows from the top of the tower. In sleep, a quantity gushes out, your eyes shut. You think you are closing the shop. Pretend to notice mistakes no one could ever hear. Your vessel always leaking a little, smoke ascending from a cigarette. Sleep is the quantity that you release. Awake, you are holding the outside of a ceramic cup when it's hot, filled with hot tea that you can just stand to pick up. When going to sleep, being run over by a bus. Stick of gum in the prime of its stickiness. Cake of soap cleans, is clean because it constantly sloughs its surface and renews itself. The shower, greatest pleasure and governing principle of my life. My love, a thing outside me, not a feeling, more concrete than a feeling. Fourth, you are always honest. I try to be honest. I mean, it's a constant struggle. I lie sometimes, but I do not invent. How is this possible to do? Thinking wishfully is the force behind all falsehood. To live securely. Aaron rents and sells furniture. His name traduced. Everywhere he sees, Aaron takes advantage of the poor, finds himself sitting in a room for the same reason an evil spirit shows up in a circle. What do I think happened? I think he offered them deals. He conjured them to appear by offering to grant the wishes of their thoughts. He offered respect. He offered to stop being an obstacle. He offered me, or he offered to replace me, because how do you conjure a spirit? Just like catching a fish, and even his name has been used as one of the baits, because how do you control a spirit, just like a spirit controls you? Temptation. The thought of what you wish for causes you to appear and intervene, because you can't name the actual object of your thought, which tempts you. You have to tell a lie, naming a possible object no one could want. Wishful thinking is the most powerful force in the world. You were responsible for her death. You wished her dead, and she died, as all will die whose deaths you wish, as well as those whose lives you would spare. So their deaths are your fault too, because you failed them. Add to them others, killed through your negligence, under your sign, on your behalf, those abandoned or never adopted by you. To you also the guilt of those who were your tools, confronted by their faces, legs, arms, and voices joined together, their work not done, dishes in the sink, undischarged obligations. He died in the battle. Then fear and sadness infected my milk. My baby died. On the boardwalk, I died when you turned your car into the crowd. I died in a cage. You don't even recognize them. They look like different people. If there remain some few whose deaths you did not cause, think about what your ancestors did to get your nice things, which have been your nice things for so long. They really are not very nice. Build a monument. Hire a choir. Do not remember. Do not think. Not today. Do not let my guilt cause my death. Never quite convinced, artist of bourgeois guilt, that nice things are nicer than nasty ones. Learn to enjoy atoning for your inheritance, being held upside down or bound by a fire. Will this expiate? Your pleasure soon dissolved in guilt, because now you are taking pleasure in the worst thing you have done. I wake up. My body doesn't. I can't move. I think I can't breathe because my body is running the sleep-breathing program, not letting me control my own breathing. I hallucinate someone who sits on my chest and stifles my breath. Once it was the chicken pox, a man who said, "I will always be part of you." Another time, it was Renee from school. I felt her fingers close around my throat. "I am not Renee," she whispered, disguising her voice, in the hands of an angry God, with one hand being held, and with the other held to the fire. I thought it might be you. I knew it was you when I heard your voice. What you said was similar to the chicken pox. I am still with you. After you spoke, I regained motor control. My hallucination ended. Was it my cat or the devil? Weight settles on me. Is this sleep? I'm Chiquita Banana. My name is taken from the shop where I was made. I have a lot of words in my head that I don't say. I love the warmth of the candle, and I also enjoy its light. Of course, I sometimes do misspeak the meaningful words in my head. If I should let my voice go, what obscenities I might utter. We can never entirely sleep, and sex, as everyone knows, is mostly dormant. The library is a sexy place, since the books on the shelves are mostly dormant. Being a poet means that I am not constrained to make sex from my own obdurate flesh alone. I also have opportunities to make sex out of words and concepts. Therefore, as a poet, even I might be considered sexy. The ingredients of my being are words and flesh, mostly. Everyone has the same flesh, only the words are different. A recovered name suddenly floods the memory, taken from the shop where I was made. I once gave someone a dictionary. Thank you.